So just a little bit of like why I'm here giving this. I pitched this for a conference later this spring, and I wanted to like do some research, and talking to people and hearing other people's stories is kind of my way of doing that. So this is version 1. I'm going to do version 2 next month at the Minneapolis Junior Devs meetup, and then version 3 will be in June. So hopefully you will all have helped me flesh this out a little bit better. So I've been building tech for nearly 20 years in various roles, and the last 8 have been as a solopreneur. I've been working with people on their products, their tech, and their teams, and it's allowed me to form some opinions on this and some rants and some raves, and I want to share that with you. And again, I want you to share with me what you've experienced. Just a little side note, as I was preparing for this yesterday, I did a search in my Evernote, my little notebook of notes over the last like 10 or 12 years, and I searched for the word shiny, and it came up a lot. And I wrote a blog post about it, like I think it was 2013. And I had like the content of the blog post. It's not actually public anymore, but so I've incorporated that into this a little bit because I think it's relevant, and I'm super interested to hear your feedback on that. So let's dive right in. Don't know why that's not working. There we go. So what is shiny? When I say shiny, I mean things that are distracting. It's cool, it's new, it's maybe the latest JavaScript framework that's on version 99 or whatever it happens to be. It's something that's not solving a real problem. It's kind of the main definition that I go after. It could be anything from the latest and greatest JavaScript framework, or I'm always going to pick on JavaScript. I'm sorry. It's my favorite, but it's also easy to pick on because there's a million of them. But it could also be clever code that you write. It could be there's a billion startup tools out there that you can attach into your website, like your Squarespace website, and it pops up a bunch of different things. And like we get distracted by all these shiny objects, and so it could be the new Apple Watch that just came out, or stuff like that. It could also be another thing that like I consider shiny is implementing design patterns too early. So before you actually know what the abstraction should be, adding that pattern in, and then all of a sudden you have it used in the wrong way. So back to this blog post that I wrote a while back. It was based off of a paper that Fred Brooks wrote back in 1986 called No Silver Bullet, Essence and Accident in Software Engineering. And Fred Brooks is this guy that he wrote the Mythical Man Month. He's the one who's responsible for Brooks' Law, the one that says if you add more people to an already late project, it's just going to be even more late. So the whole, like, you can only build a baby in 9 months, you can't throw more women at the problem, that guy. So he's got a lot of things to say about this. And he has this paper, the No Silver Bullet paper, and he talks about complexities, accidental versus essential complexities, and how in software specifically is what his paper was on, and how it's relevant to what I'm saying how it's relevant to what we're talking about today, the problems that we're trying to solve. We can either go after the accidental ones or we can go after the essential ones. So let's talk about the accidental ones. These are going to be complexities that are not actually essential to the problem that you have, or the problem that you're trying to solve for your customer. So if your customer tasks you with a specific problem and you go after the ones that you've manufactured for them or that they've manufactured for themselves, that is an accidental complexity. These are typically problems or challenges, complexities that we as engineers, as entrepreneurs, as designers, business people, we create them and we can fix them. So you can think of these as languages, tools, techniques, bells and whistles, like I was saying earlier. Like the way we write code, we can write it in a really clever way, or we can write it in a way that our colleagues can understand, or a consistent way. And then essential complexities are the opposite of that. They are directly related to the problem that we're trying to solve. So they are, they're things that that's very difficult for us to solve or impossible for us to solve. It's stuff that we just have to deal with. So as an example, defining what we actually need to build is a really, really hard problem. Talking to people about what their problem is a really hard problem. People themselves are hard. It's difficult. Design and testing and the complexity of software is all really difficult stuff. And one thing in this paper that Brooks wrote that I found really interesting, and like when I originally wrote this blog post and then when I was reading it yesterday, he talks about the invisibility of software and how it contributes to the complexity. And he does this, I'm not going to explain it because I do a really poor job of it, but you can go read it. But he compares like building architecture and blueprints to software and how we can describe and see software or how we can't see software. And that complexity contributes back to how difficult software is. So in the context of accidental versus essential complexities, our shiny objects that we're talking about today are solving for those accidental complexities. Does anyone have any questions yet or comments? Okay. So what is the problem with Shiny? Well, for starters, like I mentioned before, it doesn't actually solve the problem that we have or that our customer has. They've hired us to solve a problem for them, and what we build should be the thing that solves that problem. Before this, I was going through my list of tweets that I've liked over the course of a while. And one of them was talking about this very thing, about they may have hired us to build something to solve their problem, and we chose to use React when maybe a Squarespace website would have been appropriate. It might mean that we don't have to write code to solve this problem. So going after React might have been the shiny thing in that situation, but a Squarespace website or a WordPress website could have solved that problem for us. Sometimes our customer is chasing shiny objects, and we have to work with them on that. Another friend of mine reminded me of a project that we were on about 5 or 6 years ago, and it was over the course of a summer. And we were tasked with building a product for them 4 different times in 4 different JavaScript languages or frameworks. So that was the year I got to learn Knockout.js and Backbone.js, which it was great. I got to put that on my resume for a little while. But that wasn't really solving, I don't remember actually what their real problem was, why they were doing that. But that wasn't solving, it probably wasn't solving a problem to do that, other than like scratching an itch. So chasing after the shiny things or these accidental complexities and trying to solve for those, it actually has less impact. It has less impact than if we were to go after the essential complexities. One of the things that Fred Brooks postulates in his paper is that if we were to go after all of the accidental complexities and try to solve for all of those, it would have less improvement, less impact than if we had actually, like by orders of magnitude, less impact than had we gone after these essential complexities. So again, like the hard problems in software and hardware are not, they're not the tooling that we choose. Sometimes that's a hard thing, and it doesn't mean that we don't have to choose the right tools, but the harder things are the things where we should put our focus on. Third, I mentioned earlier that this is often distracting. We are very, very, very good at starting things, but not finishing them, myself included. Excuse me. And what happens when we start things and don't finish them is we haven't delivered any value to our customer. And that's kind of a problem because then we're not impacting people and they're not making money, and then we go away and we can't keep helping them. I also, a couple other kind of attributes that I think of when I think of Shiny or what's wrong with Shiny is it's unknown. It can be unsupported. So when we talk about choosing, say we have a code base and we need to solve this one problem, and we have a choice of 3 different libraries or dependencies to pull in, making that choice, one of the things that we should look at is how well is it supported? Is it maintained? How long has it been around? When was the last time someone made a commit to it? It can be more risky for various reasons, like all these things contribute to that risk. And then again, distracting. I would love for someone to share a story. Yes, Robert.
I just have a question about, like, what kind of language are you using to convince people who come to you asking you to solve a problem in a particular way, and you want to convince them Shiny's not the way, and I imagine that Shiny's not the only analogy that you use to them. What language do you use to at least get that conversation started?
Yeah, I try and ask a lot of questions. One of the things I do is, so people come to me with the solution already in mind, and that is, we're going to talk about this in like 2 slides, but I'm going to say this. So people come to me with like, I want this solution, I want this React app, I want this button on this page, and I don't care about that. I almost ignore that. Sorry, people, but I almost ignore that, and I actually turn the conversation around and say, well, what is the problem? What are you trying to fix? And I think like changing that conversation and just asking the question, what is your goal? And like, I don't follow the 5 whys of like, why is it broken? Why do you think people are doing this? Why are they doing this? That kind of thing. But that's like a technique to kind of keep digging. So yeah, asking a lot of questions is kind of my approach. Any other questions or yes?
So I just have like another example.
Yeah.
To like the Shiny things that I've had to deal with, especially working with really smart developers is...
like yourself.
Like edge cases, like known is like something we get so wrapped up in trying to solve for all of these possible edge cases.
Yeah.
We stop talking about the minimum viable product and the main problem that's right in front of us.
Yeah.
And so that's just one thing that
we get
with a lot is like having to rein people back in.
Yeah.
And, like, we'll get to those edge cases when we need to, but let's focus on this like main problem.
Exactly. Yes, that is really hard. I agree. Okay. Next slide. Okay, so why do we choose Shiny? Why do we like going down this path of looking at these edge cases or chasing after these cool new libraries that do like one teeny tiny extra little thing for us? Well, it's shiny, it's new, and new always means improved, right? Not really, that was sarcasm. Originally, in this little bullet here, new is better, sorry. I had a bunch of sarcasm in there, and I was like, I should probably change that. Well, okay, there's still some in there, but But anyhow, okay, so first up, starting versus finishing. It's super easy to start things and not finish them. Once we get like 25% of the way through like digging into a new technology or implementing a new idea in our product, it gets harder because we're deeper into it. And there are things that back to this invisibility thing that Brooks talked about, there are things that we didn't know about or that we didn't see or that we didn't know to consider in our estimates or our planning or just the complexity of it. And so it's easier for us to stop working on them instead of finishing it. And then the whole new is better thing. So if it's new and improved, it's obviously going to be better, but that's actually not true. It could be, it might be, but again, it's stuff that we have to evaluate as we're digging into new technology. And this one, the third one here, this is a big one for me. And in my research yesterday through my notes, I found an interview I had done a while back, and like it was about one of the things I dislike about technology, which is where this topic came up. But then like one of the other questions was about like, how do you learn new things? And it was essentially like the exact opposite, of what I was trying to say, which was I like to try new things. I like to chase after the shiny stuff to learn about it. And I think we all, well, I'm not going to speak for all of us, but a lot of us are here in this industry because we like to learn new things and we want to be able to stay curious and be able to build things and be able to contribute that back to the world in some way. I've stuck around technology for as long as I have because I want to be able to learn things, and being able to pick up new tech and evaluate 4 different libraries to figure out which one I want to pull in it's a skill that you have to learn, and so we're going to be going through some of this. And then, okay, so then there's also the flip side of this, we like to learn. I think there's also like a maybe not so good aspect of that, of like resume-driven development, where, you know, we want to put it on a resume. We want to stand up in that meeting and say, I have the solution, and be that hero. And we can only do that if we know what the latest trends are and what the best 5 libraries are that we could use, or the best framework is that's on version 99, so it's obviously the best. Anything else? Like, I'm sure there's other reasons like that. Yeah, Brad.
So I spent yesterday finding the best thing.
Yeah.
Yes. I've been doing training and stuff, and one of the issues that I noticed right away was the bias in explaining something to you, showing you something else that's the best thing. So
Oh, yeah.
Like, assuming you're using Node or assuming you're using React, here's how you build this thing. And
Yeah.
I just like, well, what if I'm just building it with a script tag? And
Yeah.
No one writes an article.
No.
Who would do that? That's insane.
Nobody uses vanilla JavaScript.
Like the fundamentals of what's actually going on.
Yeah.
Given this magic that you already don't understand, here's something to apply on top of it.
Yeah.
And the second thing I was noticing was that, kind of given the starting versus finishing, is that what you see is the first 5 steps on how simply this solves a very simple problem. So back in the day, it used to be Rails with scaffolding, and look how fast you can build a CRUD app.
Yeah.
You do it in 2 minutes, and then you're like, well, how fast can you build me an actual production app? Well, that takes a long time.
Yeah.
You know? But so we tend to see something, and we see how quickly you can do the simple thing, adopt it, and then as soon as the first complexity comes in, it pretty much falls down like.
Yeah.
You and I about to have the shiny conversation.
Yeah,
So
right.
we'll do the whole hands and rant part later. I have more, but.
Yeah. So to your first point, that's really challenging, especially as a newcomer to technology, where maybe you learned vanilla JavaScript, or you just want to figure out how to do this one thing, and like, oh, here's how you do it in React, here's how you do it in whatever, and all of a sudden you have to go learn this new framework that's not going to help you. It's a hard thing to kind of get past. Yeah. Did you have something?
Yeah, so I was working with a team. They were migrating away from a Shiny toolkit they had adopted and had run into a problem. It's related to your resume-driven development.
Yeah.
They become the experts.
Okay.
They were well recognized as the experts, but when they needed help, there was no one for them to turn to.
Yeah.
They got to a point where they had posted, I think on like Stack Overflow or something, like, how would you do this? And the only answer was just somebody saying, I don't know, you should talk to these folks. and it's them. Right? Mm-hmm. That was the red flag.
That's hilarious.
Alone in this field.
I am going to borrow that story. Please.
It may have been.
What's that?
I asked if it was closure.
Oh. So on that same note, I don't actually have this in my slides anywhere, but kind of one of the things that, something that I read about, or a suggestion for some of the questions you can ask yourself as you're choosing a technology, maybe not even a new technology, is, it's actually not a question, it's just maybe a guidance, is don't be the biggest person using it. Because then you're the go-to person for it. You don't get to ask the questions. You are the one who has to say, this is how it works. And then you get to answer those Stack Overflow questions. Yeah?
One thing I was just thinking about too is I, in a previous role, was working at a agency doing web design and development. And one thing I was thinking about in terms of like why do we choose Shiny? Similar to maybe the resume for the individual is even the competitive nature of things. So we were operating in a really niche space, and only a few people were doing the same kinds of things as we were. And so it felt like there was a lot of pressure, especially from top down to, we've reached this plateau, now how do we differentiate ourselves again and push into things that maybe, to your point earlier, the customer or user may not need, but we need to do because we have to show that we have these capabilities so that we can do more business, and people will be like, oh wow, they're doing these things, and not necessarily asking the question, is there a better model to just solving the problem and establishing rapport based on that, as opposed to pushing bounds to just doing shiny things that don't necessarily solve the end problem.
Was there a question there?
No, sorry.
Sorry, I just want to make sure I followed it all. Okay. Yep. Okay, yes. Yeah, and I'm going to touch on this a little bit. I think if I captured all that, I'm going to touch on this a little bit in a minute, is like, how do we still move forward if we don't explore these things? Yeah?
Yeah, no, I think that's maybe like a question underneath that.
Yeah.
How do you not resist pushing into new things just to not do shiny, but...
Right, exactly. Yeah. I don't have the answer to that, but I do have a slide on it. This is where I need your help. Okay, so next one. So the last half, obviously, of the title of this talk was how do you build products people use, which probably deserves its own talk itself, but I have a slide on it. We talked about this a little bit. One of the big things, I've actually got it in the first 2 bullet points, is focusing on the problem, not the solution. So focus on the actual problem, not ones that our customers think they have, or ones that we've created for them, or the ones that we think they have. And then stop focusing just on the solution. We don't have to say, like, let's use this tech and then figure out what the problem is. And as a solopreneur, like, a lot of people come to me and are like, we want you to build this thing in XYZ. And I have to kind of tune that out because not that they are necessarily non-technical or can't make those decisions, or maybe they have reasons why they've already made that decision. I don't always have the insight or the context for all of that, but If we can get past that and actually have the conversation about what the problem is first, then we can circle back and decide if that was the right technology. And then focusing on the customer, like we hear about this all the time. Sharon was just talking about this, and like focusing on people and making sure that they are the core. They're the ones who have the information about the problem that they're having, so let's actually ask them. We talk a lot about like in startup land, like we talk a lot about getting out of your seat and going and talking to the people that, or maybe it's agile, I don't know. It's all the same to me. But getting out of your seat and going and talking to your customer, whether you're in a cubicle or at a co-working space or you're at home, like leave that area that you normally do your work in and go talk to the people that you're trying to build something for. Again, it's asking them what is actually the problem. And then the last kind of piece of advice that I have is focusing on the value. This includes, like, if we start something, let's finish it. But it also includes focusing on the thing that's going to add value to someone's life. So whether that is a new marketing tool that helps them execute parts of their business. That might be a problem that they're having right now, and so that particular thing is going to solve that problem. It's going to add value. It's going to make their lives easier. But it could also be something different than that. It could be I don't have any good examples off the top of my head. Yeah, anyways. Anyone else have any thoughts or comments here before I go to the next one? Yeah.
Maybe tell us a little bit about your thoughts on how you are not always representative of your customer.
Yeah, oh gosh, that's a good one.
Repeat so people can hear.
Yeah, so, okay, the question she asked is what do I do when I'm not representative of my customer? Like the first thing I do, well, besides like attempting to get access to them, like we don't, like as technologists, as people who are building solutions for people or trying to solve problems with solutions, we don't always have access to our customers, right? Like we can't, we don't always have access to people, but if we do, I try as hard as I can to actually get access to them so we can have this face-to-face conversation. If I don't have that access, I ask a lot of questions. I find ways to learn more about that group of people or whatever that market is that we're trying to solve for. Sometimes part of that involves talking with my customer, my client, and trying to understand what they already know, but then also doing my own kind of independent research, because there could be something that they've missed or something that they're skewing, biases, that type of thing. So it involves asking a lot of questions. Anything else? Okay. I don't remember what time we're supposed to be done, but excellent, thank you. Okay, so the how do we innovate question, this is the one I don't have like a full answer to. I do think that going after some of these shiny objects and doing some exploration to figure out what is kind of the next new thing that we need to incorporate or the next level that we want to take our product to is important. And I think to do that, it involves some strategy and some goal setting rather than just like willy-nilly going after all the things all at once and then at the end not having anything to show for it. I also think that back to like the concept of, not concept, but the idea that like we do this to learn, I think we can use this to our advantage to actually continue learning, to learn more about our problem, learn how to solve our problem, learn how how to experiment with new tools and technologies, and then learn how to make those decisions. Like I said earlier, like if you're new to technology and you all of a sudden have to learn 5 different things just so you can make a decision, that's really hard to do. But once you've done that 10 times, even if it's different technology, you learn pathways and different approaches to assessing those 5 different things, and you can make that decision a little bit quicker and more efficiently and effectively. So there might be some of this chasing of shiny objects that happens. It just ends up being, at least in my mind, and this is one of these areas where I'm really interested in what other people have to say. But I think it can be done if it's strategic and there's a goal in mind. Does anyone have any thoughts on this? Yes, Brad.
All right, so we've been dealing with this thing specifically just in the last couple of months, where we're trying to think about how do teams remain autonomous and yet you still leverage technology across teams.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always the kind of the battle of how much do we standardize a solution and
Yeah.
how do you still discover new things, and that's kind of the question maybe he was talking about, is how do you find new things if you're not looking for them?
Yeah.
So I guess to try and put a strategy around, we try to figure out that one, it's some percentage, maybe that 80% of technology will be standard across teams, and
Mm-hmm.
that teams are autonomous within a certain amount of space to find
Yeah.
something new, a certain problem, but that their outcome is supposed to be to solve something for the greater team. So it can't be a local solution, because that doesn't really benefit the company.
Yeah.
And when people know that going in,
Yep.
it helps them understand what outcome they're trying to achieve, and then what they should really be looking into. Because if it's only a really small thing that would only benefit them, it's not going to really apply in the company. And some ways that we found to try and do those experiments are, like internal tools are a great way to practice.
Yeah.
something.
Yep.
Or bringing in new languages. We'll bring in we'll write the unit test in them first, or a testing framework, or those sorts of things.
Yep.
Where the cost isn't on the main product or the main customer
Yeah.
impact. And then the last point is to not get excited until you get past hello world on something.
Yes, I like that.
The fact that this makes a really easy one-liner API request is not a reason to bring in that framework. So.
Awesome. Yeah, I like all of that. Does anyone else have any other experiences of trying to have an innovation team or yeah?
I worked with a gentleman a few years ago, and he believed that a product had a finite innovation budget. I don't believe I agreed with him, but he said a product has a finite innovation budget.
Yeah.
If you use the majority of that budget for shiny new technology, it leaves little budget left for actual product innovation versus what else in the market.
Mm-hmm.
So the balance of how much do I spend my team's time making the product leverage an innovative technology.
Sure.
How much does that leave time for the team to actually innovate in that space?
Sure. Interesting. Yeah.
I had a former colleague, James Waters at Pivotal, who talked about the value line.
Okay.
That being the things that are actually going to bring your organization forward, maybe make your organization money,
Yeah.
make your mission happen, are the things you should probably put most of your innovation into.
Yeah. I
And
like
not
that.
Whatever underlying tooling. You can repeat
Yep.
for the
Yeah. So we're just talking about this value line. I don't think I've seen this before, but it makes sense. Where the value line represents that essential complexity, that core problem that you're trying to solve, and putting the majority of your focus towards that versus the other things that are maybe above the line.
Or rather, put your value, put your effort into the things that are valuable for you.
Yeah,
as
exactly.
Distinguishing.
Yeah. I like what you just said there about are valuable for you, because it's different for everyone. We all, every talk I do, I usually have a slide that says, it depends on it. Because every decision that we make in this industry, it depends. And I think this is what's valuable to you and what thing you're chasing after is going to be dependent on you. Yeah.
It's kind of a similar concept where I think people read top 10 best practices to do something.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of those are possibly written by bigger companies and really doesn't relate to your company or your size.
Yeah.
I think people just blindly following this is an issue.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we have just a couple minutes left. I'm going to go here and then you.
Sure, I'll be quick. So I'm a security guy.
Yeah.
I have supported teams in the past where they had one person who wanted to push ahead with 3 new platforms or new libraries, and had other people on the team coming to me saying, so what do you know about security on this? And I said, I know less than that guy does, and he's the developer that wants to use it. So let's go have a conversation and sort of use that to slow their roll, so to speak.
Yeah.
Not necessarily shoot it down, but say, if we're going to go this route and we want this to be part of a product and not just a quick fix solution, then let's make sure that we understand soup to nuts.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly. Yeah, security is a whole nother ball of wax. It's been on my mind as I've thought through this, but I didn't really bring it in that much. So thank you for saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that I found it really helpful to have a healthy culture of team experimentation. So being open and saying, I want to try this thing, I think it will provide this benefit, here are the risks.
Yeah.
Picking something small to try it with.
Yep.
And then making sure that your identity isn't tied to that solution.
Yeah.
If someone I put something up and it's like, no, that's too confusing, or there are a lot of risks, or it's not the right time or something.
Yep.
That's not saying
that you're a bad person. Yep.
And that way we can just be extremely open.
Yeah.
And make incremental improvements to how
Yeah.
we do things rather than be sweeping or completely shifting.
I like that. And Brad touched on this too, like the transparency and setting expectations around how and when you experiment. But I like what you brought up here of like making sure it's okay and people feel comfortable with it. And one of the ways to do that is by not attaching your name to it. Not attaching your name to it as in if it doesn't work out, it's not your fault. We have 1 minute. I don't have anything else. If anyone else does, I can be outside and we can chat a little bit more. Okay, we can be done. Thank you.